Joan Quinn Profiles. As an editor for Andy Warhol's Interview, the Los Angeles Herald-Examiner, LA Style, and Detour magazines, Joan covered the social set, the Hollywood hotshots, the international art scene, the mysteries of food, the excitement of travel, and the fabulous world of fashion. Joan continues to find creative people on the cutting edge who make things happen. Here's Joan AGAJANIAN Quinn.
Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome to the Joan Quinn Profiles. Waiting to be profiled are actor Matt McKenzie and artist Gwen Samuels. Actor, writer Matt McKenzie was born and raised in Wisconsin. He graduated from Lourdes Academy, went on to Notre Dame University, and San Francisco's American Conservatory Theater for acting training. You've seen him on TV in recurring roles on Mad Men, 24, and Veronica Mars, as well as dozens of other TV shows. You've heard his voice on video games. Matt was in the Oscar-winning film Gods and Monsters with Ian McKellen, and debuted on Broadway with Jane Alexander. He's been on stages across the country ever since that debut.
And before.
And before. Oh, so you didn't go right from Notre Dame to Broadway?
No, I went from the American Conservatory Theater to New York and eventually to Broadway.
Oh, that was great. So you did a lot of work in between.
Mm-hmm.
I thought you were very young when you were being...
I was pretty young back then, yes.
And the director on Broadway was Arthur Penn?
Arthur Penn.
How much did you learn from that experience that you're now using?
Well, he was a fantastic director and, schooled with the Actors Studio. So it was a method project. We first started out with Ellen Burstyn was playing the lead role, and then eventually Jane Alexander took over. And when you work with those caliber artists, it's every day is edifying.
Was it the same kind of training at Notre Dame that you got at ACT?
No, it was completely different. When you arrive at ACT, or at least back in the day, back in the Bill Ball days.
Oh, I love Bill Ball.
They impressed upon you immediately that you didn't know how to walk, you didn't know how to talk, you didn't know how to breathe right, you didn't even know how to stand up straight. So they stripped you down and built you back up into
an actor. And then what happened at Notre Dame? Did you always think you were going to be an actor?
Not really. I started getting roles in plays and fell in love with it and changed my focus.
One of the things that I mentioned was your voiceover for video games. Do you call that acting?
It's all the same art. You just in a different venue. You can show up in your pajamas, and it's the same job. It's just a different situation.
Do you rehearse? Do you have to rehearse?
I get a script ahead of time. I look at it. I make some decisions about it, and then before you put something down, you talk about it with the director and go through it a couple of times, and then put your take down.
So you do have a director.
Oh yeah,
even though
absolutely.
You have voiceover.
Mm-hmm.
So is the director directing the game and you, or?
It depends. The director is basically there to direct the voices, and he's supposed to have some kind of idea about what the creators of the game have in mind and their general vision, and he wants to bring what they are looking for in the performances to life.
Are there a lot of voices involved?
Not for me.
No, I mean just your own. Oh, you just use your own voice. But are there different characters?
There are a lot of different characters, and the best voiceover artists are people that can do multiple voices.
That's what I thought. And then when you've done these characters on Mad Men and 24, are they the same type of characters?
Not really. No, Mad Men was, I was a PR flack. On 24, I was a Secret Service agent. Veronica Mars, I was a basketball coach.
Do you have to go in with one idea or do you just go for whatever they're calling you for? You don't have a specific, like say you're a lawyer or you're a typecast in a certain field.
I'm not exactly sure what you mean. I do, you know, study the script, figure out what the character is supposed to be about, and make some decisions, and hopefully that works.
But they don't always call you, I mean, for a lawyer role or for a detective role. Or maybe they do.
I used to get called for lawyers a lot.
Was it pretty exciting being in Gods and Monsters?
It was terrific. You know, my scene was with Ian McKellen, and you know, he was one of my idols. I had met him a couple of years previously. I had been doing Richard III in the San Francisco Shakespeare Festival out in the park, and you know, one day we were standing off stage. I was standing with my Buckingham, and he looked in the front row, and there was this gentleman in a blue cashmere sweater, and he said, "Is that Ian McKellen in the front row?" I said, "It couldn't be. He's touring with this show right now." He was doing Richard III, but it was indeed Ian McKellen.
Sitting there watching you. Oh, it was exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Was it, I mean, when he won, when that whole thing won, did you just feel, was like part of the
It was terrific. It was,
excitement?
Bill Condon directed it. It won for Best Adapted Screenplay. And Lynn Redgrave, the late, great Lynn Redgrave, won for Best Supporting Actress.
You just said adapted screenplay.
Correct.
That's what we're here to talk about, adapting Steinbeck.
Mm-hmm.
How does one do that?
Well, my partner Rob Derringer and I sat down and made a real project out of it. We took the novel apart. We took all of the dialogue. Because
Tell us the novel, Sweet Thursday.
Oh, it's Sweet Thursday.
Right.
John Steinbeck's Sweet Thursday,
Yes,
which is his follow-up to Cannery Row. It's after the war, and the canneries, the bay has been fished of all the sardines, and the canneries are closed. And Doc comes back from the war to a changed Cannery Row, and he himself has been changed. And everybody's been waiting for him to arrive so they can get things going again, because Doc was kind of the focal point of their community. But because he's changed, the whole community is focused on trying to figure out what's the matter with Doc and what does he need. And of course, what he needs is he needs to fall in love.
Don't we all need to fall in love? But it was written by Steinbeck. You've adapted it. Do you take his words? How do you adapt something? Do you take his words? Do you pull it apart? Do you rewrite the words?
I would say 98% of the play is straight from Steinbeck. We took all of the, we made a big project about taking every line of dialogue out of the novel, and then figuring out what the scenes were we needed to tell the story that we needed to tell, and then we used Steinbeck's dialogue to tell the story.
Because, of course, it's just a novel. It's never been on stage before, has it?
I think other adaptations have been done.
Oh, they
I'm not
have?
familiar with them.
I see. Well, have many of Steinbeck's pieces been on stage? His
Well, we all
novels?
know of the Grapes of Wrath, the
Right.
Steppenwolf production that was so justly lauded and played in so many different places. You know, this play, or Steinbeck's Sweet Thursday, actually started out as a musical. He was writing the book for a musical. It was called Pipe Dreams, and he wasn't very enthusiastic about it eventually, and he just turned it over to, I believe it was Rodgers and Hammerstein, and they did complete it and make it a play. And then later he came back to it and decided to finish it as a novel.
Did you put music in it?
There's a lot of music in it, and
There is.
some
Let's
original music by our musical director, London Shover, and other things.
Let's talk about it. It's at the Pacific Residence Theater
In
Venice.
Venice.
Yes. And is it on the middle
main
stage,
stage.
on the main stage?
Mhm.
And how do you do the music? Where's the music? Are there musicians there?
We
or
have
is it
musicians
recorded?
there. We have 3 talented musicians. There's a place on stage for them, but they also move in and out of the action. They are actually members of the Flophouse Boys, so they're characters in the play.
Is it
So
a big?
there's
Oh, sorry. Is it a big cast?
13 people playing, I think 16, 17 different roles.
So it is pretty big.
There's a lot of
Do
people
they
on
dance
stage.
too?
There's dancing, there's singing, there's wonderful fun.
How did you cast it?
We had certain people in mind for specific roles, and then we opened it up for auditions, and found some terrific people, great finds, just delightful actors.
You and Rob are both actors.
Correct.
Did you write yourself into it?
I did not.
Why not?
Well, I played many of the roles. When we were writing it, we'd sit together in front of the computer, and Rob would read Doc, and I'd read in Hazel or Sonny Boy or
somebody?
Mac, or Susie.
Can you sing and dance too?
I'm Irish, I must.
Exactly, that's what I thought you were. When all this starts being adapted, do you have to get approval from the estate?
We had to get the rights from the Steinbeck estate. Rob stayed on that like a relentless terrier, and eventually they came up with a deal for us, and a friend of ours stepped forward and put up some cash, and away we went.
What about the research? Did you have to go to Salinas because there's a big Steinbeck community? What do they call it?
Well,
Community
there's
house?
the National Steinbeck Center. Is there
yeah.
in Salinas, as well as the Steinbeck House, and you know, Doc's lab still exists right there on Cannery Row, because the character Doc in Sweet Thursday is based on, as you probably know, Doc Ed Ricketts, who was one of Steinbeck's friends.
So he actually wrote where he was living. He wrote about what he knew.
Steinbeck did,
Yes,
he did.
yes.
Got him in trouble sometimes, too, when some of his depictions of the owners of these farms and things like that turned him into a little bit of a pariah at times.
That's what happens when you write about what you know, even when you change the names.
The Romana Clef cuts both ways.
So while you're writing and while you're sitting there on the computer with Rob, do different things come into your mind that you think, why didn't we add this, or why did this should really be this way?
I literally, as I was walking to your door, I was on the phone with him talking about edits that we had to make, and it is so difficult because everything in the book is so good. Steinbeck is such a tremendous writer that it's almost impossible to cut.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you went up to research and you said that the lab was still there, did you go all through the community? Did you find people who reminded you of the characters?
Yes and no. You know, I would have liked to spend a lot more time up there. The people that we mostly spent time with were the directors of the festival, the director of the Steinbeck Center, Herb Behrens and Robbie Behrens, his daughter and or his wife, and you know, we got to spend some time with people that had recordings of people who knew Doc, and
did you hear those? You got
so we got to listen to those.
Oh, so that was good.
Mm-hmm.
Was that very helpful?
It was very illuminating.
And every year do they do this festival?
They do indeed. I think they did it at, I think it was in the spring this year instead of last year. It was in the summer. But yes, every year.
And from here, where do you go? Do you just start adapting other plays, or do you
We
go?
take this straight to Broadway, hopefully.
Oh, okay. Good way to end it. Thank you so much for being with us, Matt.
My pleasure, Joan.
And don't go away. We'll be right back with artist Gwen Samuels. Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome back to the Joan Quinn Profiles. I'm here with artist Gwen Samuels, who was born and raised in New York. She earned her Bachelor of Fine Arts at Syracuse University, where she studied textile design. From viewing her work, you would have think she studied architecture, fashion design. She did start her career by designing wallpaper, which to me was a far move, or was it right in with textile design?
It's, well, to design wallpaper, you have to be concerned about a repeat pattern.
So it's textile in a way.
Yes, hand printing.
So what kind of designs were you doing?
Well, I actually, I forget about my history. I won, excuse me, the Mademoiselle Magazine college competition.
Oh, how great!
I mean, I don't know if they're still doing that.
I know, I remember those so well in college. You wanted to be a part of one of those fashion magazines, right?
It was hysterical.
And you won?
I did, and it was for textile design. And I got to spend a month in Manhattan, staying at the Barbizon Hotel.
Yes, of course. That's where they put all the young women.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And we went to Paris, and I guess that's where it started.
That's fantastic. So. But it is a repeat, and I see in your work the repeat continues.
Correct.
So what kind of designs were you doing? What was inspiring you for your wallpaper?
Oh, wow. That's a really good question. At the time, well, for the Mademoiselle magazine, it was sort of a fantasy theme. And I wonder if I still have those. I've moved from the East Coast to the West Coast, and I don't know if I still have them.
Did you actually work designing wallpaper, or was that just something you want?
No, I did for a short time in, I got married and moved to Miami. My ex-husband was in law school. So I did handprints. Which is kind of different, where they do screen printing. And so I did that for a period of time.
But hand printing is like hand block? Is
that
it?
Exactly.
Block printing?
That's correct.
And is that for the wall? Would that be for the wallpaper?
Yes.
Okay, what about for the fabric?
Yes. It was the same thing. That's what the company did. So it was.
Did you work for a company?
Yes, but, oh man, I don't know the name.
It doesn't matter, but you were doing fabric design.
I was.
I'm trying to find out where this stopped, where the wallpaper, where the fashion, when did the art come in?
Well, the fashion, I think, I'm trying to make connections myself, because the clothing thing, I think, comes from I was raised in the 50s. I was the oldest of 3 girls, and my mother always dressed us all the same. So being the oldest, that was not a good thing. So, but there was a lot of emphasis on dress up. In those days. So I think that, I always had an interest in fashion.
So you have the fashion inspiration in your work that comes today. You also have the archaeology, the Roman urns.
Yes,
and Greek things.
Yes. Well, I think that came from just being absolutely visiting the Getty and looking at the forms. And, that's sort of an object kind of thing. And this also being an object kind of thing. I'm starting to go 3-dimensional now because I'm getting bored.
And then the architecture.
Oh, yes, the architecture.
Is
this is at the A&D Art and Design Museum.
On Wilshire Boulevard, across from the LA County Museum. And these are buildings.
Correct, made up of architecture.
Using your same mixed media work. So we're going to talk about what that mixed media is. But this looks like an architecture student or a drawing that maybe you would do in class. Did you ever take those classes?
No.
You never did?
No.
So we have, as I said before, this whole group of elements. Is there something I've left out?
Well, they're hand-stitched.
No, about the subject matter.
The subject matter, let me think. There's dresses, there's urns, there's buildings. The early pieces were sort of mandala shaped, and they were they looked more like quilts.
Oh, very interesting.
Yes, so I didn't know all the shapes and all the things I could do.
What materials were you using then in the early pieces?
Same.
Everything's been the same. Okay, we're talking about the material now. It's mixed media. Tell me it's very lightweight.
Yes, it's plastic.
Okay, tell us about that.
Well, they, and this is I'm still trying to figure out why I'm using this, except that I love the material. It's plastic. These are digital images that I take. I print them on the transparency, and then I print them in repeat because that's the textile thing.
And also printing is the same thing, right?
Exactly.
So you're printing. How do you print it on here?
I have 4 printers at home, so I do all the printing myself. And you just
and the
run
color,
it through.
you change the color, you do the.
I don't Photoshop. What you see is what I got.
Is from your camera?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So tell us about this.
I'm looking, and I'm I'm trying to remember. I think last year I took a portfolio review in San Francisco, and there was a gorgeous fountain, and I think that's what that is.
And then what are these little strings, and how do you put them together?
Oh, well, the strings hold everything together. There's like a 1/16 of an inch overlap on all the pieces.
Do you sew it?
I hand stitch.
You hand stitch it?
Yes.
Would you call this a craft, or would you call it in the area of craft or in the area of fine art? Because there's sculptures.
Yes.
But to both.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, the craft museum is definitely a possibility for me. So yes.
So all these little, are they cut? And you cut them in different designs?
Yeah, but I'm starting to leave the strings longer because I really just think that it sort of maps the making of the piece.
And the plastic, how do you do that?
I just run it through. I take my images. I have 7,000 images on my computer. I load them from my camera. I pick the ones I want. I print them on the plastic sheets. I cut them up.
You cut them. Okay, so let's talk about the materials. Use scissors.
Yeah.
Go on.
Yes. I use an awl to poke holes before I sew. I use tape to put everything together before I sew.
What kind of tape?
Good question. Okay, special tape that I didn't even know existed.
It is,
Well, it doesn't leave a residue.
I see. That's right. Very important.
I don't want a residue. So it's easily removable tape. Then I poke the holes after it's been arranged. Then I hand stitch it. Then it's UV sprayed on both sides to protect the image. And also, I use an inkjet printer.
But we're talking about, say, this image or an image of the bowls that you brought. Those are all sprayed.
Everything's sprayed.
And do they stand alone, those images? Like, is this one piece?
You know what? If somebody wants a group, that's fine with me. If somebody wants one, that's fine with me.
I see.
I have a lot of work. I have about 150 pieces in my studio.
So, let's go back. It's like it's daunting how much work you do and how much time. Is this a free form?
Kind of. It's.
Or did you plan this shape?
I think I would say it's a free form. It's new for me to be working in three-dimensional.
I see.
And I'm starting to learn more about form and structure and armature.
And let's talk about this.
Should we hold it up?
Yes, let's
Okay.
do that. Oh, let's not go
Too high?
Let's go right
Okay.
there. Tell us, because I see the strings. I see the, what is it, vellum?
Sure. I mean, I call it transparency.
Transparency.
Yeah.
Okay, so what have you done? This is a fashion statement.
Yes. And actually, these images were taken from the California show that was at LACMA. And I was really interested in the sets for the way everything was set up.
Oh, because it was very
remember it was very
moving.
curvy.
Yes,
very
curvy.
So that's kind of what this is from, and this is from this, and you start to. I'm very interested in creating a way of seeing. If you look really closely, you can recognize that these were those chairs, and these were lamps that were behind the chairs, if you care. But of course, I've made it into a corset. So it's a close-up and far away. And yes, here's all those curves, and they were perfect ruffles for me.
It looked like ruffles.
Yeah.
So you've created the ruffles in that part of it.
Yeah.
Tell us about this other dress.
Okay, the other dress.
It's like a sweetheart neckline
Yes,
and a full skirt.
yes, and that was an earlier piece. This is a more recent piece, and I guess there is some kind of difference between the way I'm working with the materials now.
Because this looks more collaged.
Okay.
It looks like you're doing more layers.
Okay.
And the earlier piece?
It was more repetition in strips.
I see.
And I'm now, and also the irregular shapes. I wasn't doing that as much then. Anyway, those pictures are from the Tokyo airport.
Oh, so each place has a meaning for you.
Sometimes.
Some place you've got.
Yeah.
What about the colors? You don't manipulate the colors?
No.
So whatever comes out.
No.
Okay.
And if you look at that also, it's a combination.
Let's talk about the different
Okay.
buildings?
Okay. Well, you know, if I look at them, let's see. This one and this one are more recent because you can see that I'm starting to cut out the shapes. I'm starting to make it more irregular.
And what buildings do you have in mind when you're doing this?
They're fantasy. They come from my head. I look at anything and everything and you know, combine imagery to, you know.
What size? Give us an idea of size.
Well, the one on the far left, the small, it's kind of small. It's about this big.
Oh,
and then
small.
they, you know, they get like about that big.
Like 2 feet to
Yeah,
4
yeah.
feet?
Right.
And are these flat surfaces?
They're flat.
And so
They're
they
flat.
could be frames individually?
Yes, but one of the other things that interests me a lot is because they're transparent, if they're well lit, I hang them about a 1/16 of an inch off the wall with straight pins so that the light interacts with the imagery and it looks three-dimensional.
So that's how this shouldn't be
Yes.
on a wood. This shouldn't be on a background.
Well, it could be on a white wall. If somebody chooses to frame it,
But
they
if
can.
we have this, we have just this piece and we just tack it to the wall.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so it's very portable for me, you see.
It's beautiful. Gwen, thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
being with us today.
Thank
It was
you.
great. And thanks for watching the Joan Quinn Profiles. Keep writing to JAQUINN1 at AOL.com. See you next time.